Yes. Oh, okay. Hello, welcome everyone. My name's Leah. I am currently an admissions counselor at the admissions office with Reed College. So thank you everyone for attending our faculty office hours for the environmental studies major. And we're very excited to have you here. We also have a faculty member who is here and will also tell you a lot about this program, this major, and what to expect for an environmental studies major here at Reed College. I did want to take a small minute to note that currently you are all on mute, and that is for the purposes of recording. So please feel free to drop any questions or comments you have in the chat. We just want to make sure that in order for this recording to be able to be uploaded, we unfortunately do need to have everyone else on mute. But of course, please use the chat and add any questions and comments you might have. Also, please feel free to turn on your cameras as well. We will edit that so that none of your faces will show up on the recording. So that is definitely something to keep in mind. But otherwise, without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to our professor who is here joining us, Professor Aaron Ramirez, who is from the environmental studies major and here to tell us all about it.
Great. Thanks, Leah. Can you hear me? Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for being here. As Leah mentioned, I'm Aaron Ramirez. I'm an associate professor of biology and environmental studies here at Reed College. So we're going to talk a little bit about that environmental studies program specifically today. And you may be familiar that there's different departments participating in this program. So I'll kind of walk through what the program looks like. If you have questions as we go, please put those in the chat. Leah will be monitoring the chat and we can get to your questions towards the end. We should have plenty of time. I don't have a ton of material here and want to hear what kinds of things you all are thinking about. So I'm currently the chair of the ES program, and some kind of cornerstones of this program are that it's an interdisciplinary program, meaning that it pulls from multiple existing disciplines on campus, mainly from two of the campus's three divisions, the math and natural sciences and the history and social sciences. And we'll walk through what the curriculum for that program looks like. But the idea is that environmental problems involve both an understanding of the physical and natural sciences, as well as social sciences and the humanities and things that influence the way we interpret the science. And so the goal of the program is really to give you a broad foundation in those key disciplines and some ability to work and communicate across those disciplines to solve environmental problems. Another big cornerstone of the program is field-based study. So as somebody who studies the environment, my favorite part about doing research is to be outdoors and doing that work. And there's a lot of value for environmental work to have the skills and resources and ability to do that work in the field, in the environments that we study. So that's a big focus of the program as well. Also, environmental problems can't be solved in academic institutions alone. These environmental issues that we deal with in environmental studies require getting out of that ivory tower or away from campus and engaging with communities. And so our program is specially designed to give you some of those experiences and abilities to engage with communities beyond Reed. Often that looks like students working with natural resource managers, policymakers, other decision makers, conservation practitioners, folks that can be good partners in solving environmental problems. And then the final kind of big keystone of the program is climate change, obviously, as one of our major environmental challenges in the 21st century, and a clear focus on what we call climate change adaptation. So when we think about the problem of climate change, there are strategies that we use to mitigate or to slow down the causes of climate change. So those are the carbon emissions, from human activities. That's what we call climate change mitigation, and we do cover those areas as well, but a lot of the program focuses on this other aspect of climate change work, which is climate change adaptation, and that's really adapting and responding to the effects of climate change. The reason we focus on climate adaptation is that it's something that needs to be done at many different scales, including local to global scales, and is something that even if we were successful with mitigation and could shut off all carbon emissions tomorrow, we would still be practicing climate change adaptation for centuries to come. So it's an important area of focus of our academic program. All right, so let me see here. Great, we jump in slides here. So this is our environmental studies faculty. So the ES program pulls from these different disciplines on campus: history, political science, economics, biology, and chemistry. Josh Howe is our environmental historian. Chris Koski is our environmental political scientist. Noelwa Nedesol is in economics. I'm in biology, and Lynn Gratz is our environmental chemist. All of us work together to operate the environmental studies program, and we co-teach classes together within that program. And then we often also are collaborating on interdisciplinary research projects. Let's see, maybe a little more about each of these folks. So Josh really specializes in valuing environmental risks and understanding the history of those environmental challenges, especially around water and other natural resources in the Western United States. Chris Koski, our political scientist, specializes in public policy and American policy methodological approaches with a focus on environmental issues. His recent research has mostly looked at budget policies and how those are set and how that influences things like state level climate adaptation programs. Noelwa, our economist, her research really focuses on valuing environmental risks and benefits through hedonic pricing mechanisms, including research on flood risk and property values in and around the city of Portland and other areas like Portland. Lynn Gratz is an atmospheric chemist. So her research looks at air quality, air pollution, transport, and uses a variety of lab and field-based methods, some really cool projects looking at the transport of wildfire particulates across the Western United States. And Lynn is our newest faculty member here at Reed, just started this past year. We're really excited to have her. And then I'm a biologist, as I mentioned before. I largely study how trees and forests in the Western United States are impacted by things like drought and wildfire and climate change, and really try to employ what I consider a translational science or translational ecology approach, meaning that we involve potential end users of our science in the process of science by working with them to develop questions that are of immediate importance to the work that they do. And then we use science-based tools to try and solve those problems collaboratively with those stakeholders. So I'll mention a little bit more about my teaching program, just since I'm the only one here today. But, oh, let's see, that was supposed to have some pictures on it. Here we go. So this is one of the classes that I teach. This is a biology course, but it also counts towards the environmental studies curriculum. It's a field-based ecology and natural history class called Leaves to Landscapes. And the idea with the class is that we travel around the Pacific Northwest to learn about the different forest ecosystems in our region. We have some of the most spectacular forest ecosystems in the world in and around the Portland area. So we travel to those places with weekly field trips. We do several weekend-long overnight field trips throughout the semester. By the end of the semester, students know how to identify pretty much every tree and most woody shrub species in the region, as well as know something about the ecology and natural history and conservation work going on in each of our unique forest types. Um, the Another key aspect of the class is partnering with a natural resource manager, and the students work together as part of a large team to meet the needs that are communicated to them by that natural resource partner. As some of you may know, we have the largest trees in the world in the Pacific Northwest, some from the coast redwood forests in Northern California and Southwest Oregon, to our giant Sitka spruce and Douglas fir dominated coastal rainforests in Oregon and Washington. Because of this, it makes doing work on these organisms pretty challenging. And so since bringing my research program to Reed, I've had to develop new strategies for getting access to these organisms to study them. And so a big part of our research program is training students how to access these massive organisms and the incredible forests that they compose. So another class that I teach is called Forest Canopy Ecophysiology. And as a product of the class, all students receive certification and training in safe tree canopy access techniques. And then they use that technique for the labs and for the research projects that they do in the class. This is a new class. We just taught it for the first time last fall. It was really popular and went really well, and we're teaching it again this semester. It's been full both times, but really fun class to teach and hopefully to take. And then another feature of my lab that you may hear about at some point in your recruitment process here is this mobile field lab. So we do a lot of field-based research in my lab. And one of the tools we have for doing that is this mobile field station that is basically a little travel trailer that's capable of running completely off grid with 6 full-size solar panels and a lithium-ion battery system that allows us basically to run any of our lab equipment away from campus in the field. So we take it to these remote forest sites and do work away from campus there. And in some cases, students are using this to do work stationed pretty far away from campus. For example, one of our students last summer had this base camp down in southwestern Oregon as part of a project with the Nature Conservancy and the Forest Service in the Ashen watershed, and was working for 6 weeks out of the base camp to collect data on forest restoration practices down there. You might see the little drone in the foreground here. This is a new technology we have for sampling these really large trees. Basically, it's a drone that is capable of sampling the uppermost tree branches from really large trees. So if you've ever been to a pizza arcade that has one of those little claw grabber games, it's sort of like that. We fly up and over the trees, and there's a remote controlled arm that grabs onto the tree branch and runs a little saw to saw the branch and bring it back to us, and so that we can use that tissue for the measurements that we do. So that's just a quick little window into some of the research and teaching that I like to do. For your one-stop shop for information about the environmental studies program is the ES webpage. So there's a lot of good information on there about the academic program and about some of the events and things that we do annually. I'm not sure if this QR code is actually functional anymore, but you're welcome to give it a try. If not, just Google Reed College Environmental Studies, and this will be the webpage that comes up. But I definitely encourage you to check out what we have on the website. A couple of things you'll find there are the requirements for the major. So I'll just kind of walk through that. I mentioned that we view this as an interdisciplinary program. And the main way that we initiate that interdisciplinary work for you all is through the core course requirements. So you have required courses in 2 of the 3 divisions on campus, the history and social sciences and the math and natural sciences. And all ES majors take courses in these core areas. So even if and I should mention that as an ES major, you will select one of those disciplinary specialties as your home department within the major. So we call them flavors of environmental studies. There's biology, chemistry, political science, economics, and history. But even if you're an environmental studies economist or an environmental studies biologist, you're going to take these core courses. So that's a foundation of the program. We want everybody to have sort of an equal amount of social science and natural science training as the foundation of the program. Then in addition to the core, there are 2 interdisciplinary courses that we teach entirely within the ES program by ES faculty. So the first course is called ES 200. It's an introduction to doing environmental studies work. It's for first and second year students. It's a great way to get a feel for what being an ES major is going to be like. And you'll get exposure to a bunch of different methodologies, both physical and natural science methodologies and social science methodologies, and how we integrate them in interdisciplinary environmental work. And it's also a great way to see who else is majoring in ES in those early years. We'll follow that up with a junior seminar course in the second semester of your junior year. ES 300 is the name of that course. And this is a project-based course. This is where, at this point in your training, you are developing a strong disciplinary focus in your home department, and you've had some interdisciplinary training through ES 200. And you're going to bring all of that to bear on a project-based class in the second semester of your junior year, where all ES juniors, whatever flavors they are, will work together as part of an interdisciplinary team to work on a project with an identified stakeholder. So these are a list of some of the past ES projects that you can find on the website, and you're welcome to view and download the reports if you want. But the basic idea is this class is co-taught by somebody from math and natural sciences and somebody from history and social sciences. Most recently, Josh Howe and I have been teaching this class for the last few years. And we will do some work on the front end to identify a stakeholder for you to work with. For example, this year we're working with the Nehalem Watershed Council, which is over on the coast of Oregon. And we help build a relationship between you as the students and the stakeholder early in the semester, and you listen to and empathize with the needs of that stakeholder, and then develop a project that is designed to solve some climate change related problem for that stakeholder. So you can look at some of these past reports to see how we've done that in previous courses. In addition to the interdisciplinary and the core parts of the curriculum, the rest of your coursework will be within your home department. So this is where your flavor of ES will start to dictate which additional courses you take. So if you're an ES biology major, these are the upper division courses that you'll take to complete that major, and chemistry listed here as well. These are very similar in structure to the requirements of a straight biology or a straight chemistry major. So you'll have a lot of overlap with your biology colleagues, as well as your environmental studies colleagues. So it's nice, you kind of have 2 homes in ES, which is great. And then this is what the course requirements look like for the history and social science flavors of ES. So for economics, history, and political science. it's okay if you can't read all of these things now. Again, they're on the website, but generally similar in structure to other history, political science, and economics majors. So in addition, at Reed, we also have what's called a junior qualifying exam and a thesis. So the junior qualifying exam is something that all students complete before advancing to their senior year and taking on their thesis. In ES, the junior seminar course that I mentioned earlier, ES 300, is your qualifying exam for the ES major. But then you will also take the qualifying exam in your home department. So if you're ES biology, you'll take the biology qualifying exam and ES 300, and that's your completion of the junior qualifying requirements for the major. And then, like all majors on campus, we require a mandatory thesis project. And the thesis, one thing to understand about the ES thesis is that it's not designed to be an interdisciplinary thesis necessarily. You'll be following the guidelines of your home department. So if you're an ES biologist, you'll be mostly doing a biology thesis. But our hope is that you having the additional training in the social sciences and other aspects of the ES program will give you some interdisciplinary perspectives and opportunities to explore things in a way that is maybe a little bit different from other majors in your home department. But it will largely look like a thesis within your home department. When you are getting closer to being on campus, there's a lot of great resources that you can find through the registrar's office. The academic advising handbook is one of those, and has some example course plans for you to look at, especially for those first 2 years. The ES major, because we have those core requirements, your first 2 years are pretty straightforward. Everybody needs to get started on their math and natural science curricula. So biology and chemistry, get those out of the way early, and start working on some of your other core course requirements. But you're welcome to take a look at the resources, and I encourage you to do so for additional information there. So in addition to the academic program, we work to build a community within the ES program, and we do that through inviting speakers, academics, others from the community occasionally, and that is an opportunity. Because we're all housed in different departments, these events become a key way for us to engage with one another across those departments. So one example of an event we had this year was this partnership with Oregon Origins to invite some Indigenous partners to talk about the cultural uses of fire on the landscape from the Costanay people in particular. And so these are events that are free and open to all ES majors, and a great opportunity to grow and learn together outside of the typical course curricula. In addition to the speakers and I should say, yeah, there's some other key events that we do annually. There's in the fall, we have something called the Fall Gathering, which is where we invite folks that have done recent summer research projects to talk about the environmental aspects of that work. And so it's a great way to kind of look ahead and see in your first fall what kinds of research opportunities might be available to you for your upcoming summers. So check that out in the fall. And then in the spring, we have a senior showcase where all thesising seniors will present what they're doing for their thesis. So it's a great way to see what other ES majors are doing for thesis. That event is next week, so I don't know if any of you are traveling to visit campus next week, but if you are, you're welcome to to come and visit the event. And then we also participate and collaborate with other groups on campus for environmental related events, things like the Canyon Day. So the canyon is a natural area in the center of campus that we manage in partnership with the Johnson Creek Watershed Council and others in the area. But we do an annual event where folks from the community all work together to do some of the restoration work that's required of that, maintaining that important resource. We have the last couple years been working with the Office of Sustainability on some Earth Day programming. So we have an Earth Day speaker and a tree climb and a bunch of Earth Day related events going on in that late April week. So those are some of the ways to connect with your ES colleagues while you're here. Let's see, summer opportunities. So another thing I'll point you to is this is again on the Environmental Studies website, but there are links to summer field research and other research opportunities. The main one that we manage as the ES program is the Environmental Studies Summer Experience Fellowship, which is a really amazing opportunity basically to get paid to do cool environmental work anywhere. So there are lots of nonprofit groups and other research groups that might be interested in having a motivated and bright Reed student to work with over the summer, but maybe they don't have funding for that position. Well, we'll pay you to go and work for that organization or with that organization over the summer. So annually we collect applications for that fellowship program in February and March, and then give out those awards in time for you to participate in those summer experiences. And then there's a bunch of other similar types of fellowship programs in biology, in some of the other home departments that contribute to ES, as well as just across the college. And you can find out more information about all of those at the Center for Life Beyond Reed's website. Has a list of fellowships and grants and awards that you're eligible for. Let's see, post-Reed. So we get this question a lot. What do ES majors do? And I'd say, Reed is really well known and respected for preparing students to do well in graduate school and in other professional degree programs. But ES, I think, has one of the broadest bases for students to land in a variety of different careers. And this is a quote from one of our recent graduates who I think kind of nails what we see as really valuable in the ES program. I'm just going to read this here, that the ES program has made me an outstanding planner, says Alma Sugali from 2014. Graduate of 2014, who works as a transportation planner in Philadelphia. Not necessarily in skills, the hard, soft skills I need most at work, I learned in graduate school, but in thinking, it has set me apart from the beginning in two ways: in critical interdisciplinary thought and in methods. So many of my peers in planning are unable to truly think between disciplines, and most are not equipped to do so. While many planners understand the basics of statistics, they lack the core foundational thought behind the sciences, statistics, and computing that I learned in the ES program. So this is the kind of interdisciplinary thinking that we're really trying to cultivate in our ES majors. And so whatever you end up going and doing after Reed, hopefully you're going to have the foundation to be able to think differently than others that have those straight disciplinary approaches in their training. So that is, I think, enough of the slides for now. So why don't we, if you all have them, we can go to some questions.
Yes, so we do have some questions in the chat, and thank you for your incredible insight. I think we have one question from Carl. It says, "Hi, my name is Carl, and I'm an international student from the Philippines. If I am interested in environmental science and climate diplomacy, should I major in environmental studies or political science?"
Great question. So, I think the environmental studies political science flavor would be a great option for you to look into. So, some of the things to consider about whether or not an ES poli sci or a straight poli sci major are a good fit is to look at what other courses you are interested in taking outside of political science, because the political science core or curriculum is going to be pretty similar across both majors. But what's going to differ is that we've sort of curated your path through the history and social sciences in an intentional way, and really wanting you to do these interdisciplinary courses as well, as part of your training. That won't be the case with political science if you are interested in, merging your political science training with something more in the arts and literature and languages. Then ES will give you less wiggle room to do that sort of thing. But I would say ES poli sci sounds like it might be a good fit.
Yes. Next from Sierra, we have a question asking how easy would you say it is to get internships from this program? So I know you talked a little bit about internship opportunities earlier, but if you don't mind elaborating maybe a bit more in terms of on-campus opportunities as well as off-campus ones.
Absolutely. So two things I'll say about that. One is that our students, Reed students, are very competitive for off-campus opportunities. So you'll have lots of opportunity for summer internships and fellowships off campus. But those tend to be more competitive than the on-campus ones. The on-campus ones, we have an incredible amount of fellowships and award programs for our students. And I would say the funding rate on that, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but just from recollection over the last few years in the ES program, we funded probably close to 80% of the applications for the SE program. So it's a pretty good funding rate. Um, and if it's not SE, there are lots of other programs, like I mentioned, for sources on campus. So if you are not finding what you're looking for off campus, we can probably fund it on campus.
And the next from Rita, we have a question asking, oh, it just flew out. Okay. Can you give specific examples of careers of ES majors, maybe more recently or from, of course, like within biology, and related careers?
I can. Yeah, we're in the process actually of trying to collect some data on this, but I do have some anecdotes that I can share from some of my colleagues from across the spectrum here. So let me just look at this real quick. Okay, so for ES chemists, some recent career landing spots have been Pesticide Action Network, teaching English in China, graduate study at UC Irvine, graduate study at the California Institute of Technology, or Caltech, ETH Zurich, graduate work, Peace Corps, working with the EPA in North Carolina. So those are all recent graduates, kind of all over landing spots. For ES history, we have some recent graduates that are working with the City of Portland Bureau of Planning and Sustainability, urban planning graduate studies at Penn State, now a consultant for transportation planning, for a transportation planning company, American Prairie Reserve, Watson Fellow, UPenn Arboretum, ES Bio. We've got masters and PhDs in a variety of different academic graduate programs, wildlife biology and conservation programs, AmeriCorps, Hawaiian-based conservation and nonprofit organizations, ES Econ, nonprofit, lots of nonprofits on environmental issues, planning work with lots of city governments, lots of uh, graduate schools in economics. And let's see, political science, environmental and tribal law at CU Boulder, a graduate program there. Oregon League of Conservation Voters, a part of the Jeff Merkley campaign. So yeah, all over the board. I think when I look at the landing spots for our majors in ES, it's so much more diverse than many other programs on campus.
Thank you. And then also from Rita, can you talk about study abroad opportunities for ES majors?
Yeah, so there are definitely study abroad opportunities. One thing I'll point out, if you're interested in study abroad, it helps to be aware of that early in the process because the ES major sort of curates the coursework with that core curriculum. We tend to have a few more required courses. It's the same number of total units that everyone else takes, but a few more requirements that make it difficult to do study abroad in certain years and semesters. In particular, you need to be on campus junior year spring semester. And so full year study abroad is not an option for ES majors junior year, but it is an option sophomore year, and it is an option um, fall semester junior year, but not spring semester. There are a number of really great programs that ES students take advantage of. I would say the most popular one recently has been the School for Field Studies, which has sites all over the world, does some really cool field-based biology and social science and conservation related work in those places. So check out School for Field Studies, and we have lots of current and recently graduated Reed students that can speak to their experiences in that particular program. But that one works really well too, because the courses that you take at SFS, most of them will transfer in really well in the ES program. You'll get some upper division math and natural science credit, some social science credit, and some general ENV units as well.
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
Next from Kieran, we have a question asking, what does the distribution across ES flavors look like? What is the average size of each cohort?
Good question. So this is something that's been changing rapidly since I got here in 2018. So in that time frame and just in these last few years, our cohorts for the ES program overall have increased from about 9 or 10 graduates a year to closer to 20, and on track to be maybe closer to 30, 25 or 30. So the program's growing really rapidly. And the distribution across the flavors tends to be pretty even historically. And it fluctuates a little bit year to year. It's always kind of hard to predict. Right now, we have probably more ES biologists than any other flavor. But yeah, that fluctuates a little bit with people going on leave, and we just hired our new chemist this year, so that one's kind of picking back up. And yeah, but generally even, and right now I'll say between 20 and 25 in each cohort.
Okay, thank you. Next from Vassar, we have a question asking how difficult it is to get into ES courses.
Yeah, so the ES courses that we manage and teach, the ES 200 and ES 300 courses, we'll make sure you get into those. We're growing and developing the program in response to the demand we have within the major for those courses in particular. For courses that are within the home departments but aren't managed by ES, there are always plenty of options to meet your requirements. a particular class may be difficult to get into. So for example, I mentioned the Leaves to Landscapes class. That's a class that we have to cap at 18 because of the structure of the class in order to be able to get off campus as often as we do. In that class, unfortunately, the waiting list for that class is as long as the enrollment is for it every time we teach it. But there are plenty of other classes to meet the requirement that class fulfills. Um, and the other thing to note about courses that are harder to get into is that when you register for courses, you have the option of prioritizing your registration for one class. So working with your advisor when you're on campus to figure out what are those classes that fill up most quickly, and then using your priority slot for those classes. I would say most students are able to get the classes they want at some point in their 4 years here, even if it's not in every semester.
Yeah, so from Peter, we have a question asking, is there room in one schedule to take a few classes outside of the ES and home department requirements, if that were your major?
There are, yeah. So in addition, you may have looked into this already for Reed, but we have what are called group requirements or distribution requirements in addition to your major requirements. So you don't have to worry. So the three groups correspond to our three divisions on campus: the arts and humanities, the history and social sciences, and the math and natural sciences. ES will take care of two of those three groups for you, so you don't have to worry about what your group requirements are for groups 2 and 3, because that's already included in the core of ES. So you'll choose whatever courses you want to meet the group 1 requirements. So in the arts and literature and languages, you'll choose your electives through that set of requirements. And then in addition to all of those required courses, you need 30 units total to graduate. And I think the ES majors, they fluctuate a little bit, but the total requirements are between like 20 and 25. So you'll always have some wiggle room in each of the majors to take other elective courses.
We have from Nisa asking how common it is to conduct research in different courses related to ES.
Yeah, so research is a big part of what we do at Reed. So a lot of what we're preparing you to do early on is to be ready for that thesis year in your senior year. And one of the ways we do that is by giving you lots of low stakes opportunities to practice research throughout your training. And so most upper division courses in every department have original research components to them. So all of the courses that I teach have some original research component to them, and that's true of most classes. So in addition to course-based research, you also have those summer research opportunities, and there are also what are called independent study opportunities. So where you can work on research projects with faculty for credit as part of your units needed to graduate. So lots of opportunity for research. That's something that Reed has been ahead of the curve on forever, and people have looked to us as a model for how to do research with undergraduates in a really competitive and fun and engaging way.
Yes. And also since we are talking about research, I am wondering, and I'm personally curious about some research topics or thesis topics that some of the students you might be advising related to the ES major are doing, or maybe what past thesis topics have looked like, and maybe how that's like culminated from their research during coursework or just throughout their academic career.
Yeah, so yeah, like I was saying, the way we view our courses is in part a way to prepare you for the thesis process. So a lot of pretty much all all thesis projects, you can draw some pretty clear lines between what the students end up choosing to work on for thesis and the courses that they've taken. So you'll learn techniques and skills and things that will be directly applicable to the topics that you choose to work on for thesis. The way thesis is chosen is sort of, it's really encouraged that the student is the one driving the research questions and hypotheses, and works closely with the faculty member to design ways of evaluating those research questions. But some examples. So currently the research projects I have, everybody's a little different in my department in biology. Some people, because the methods that they use are really specific to the lab setup that they have, students tend to work a little on things that are a little bit more closely aligned with the main research program of the lab. But in my case, I advise students all across the board on things that are way outside of my area of expertise and are sometimes the most fun projects to work on. But so let's see, right now, I have a project that's looking at bird diversity patterns in urban environments and in cities, and looking at the effect of sociodemographic factors on bird diversity in the city of Portland. So that's a really interesting project, some field work, some computational work. There's another project that's looking at the interactions between pathogens, fire, and the microbiome of plant roots for a particular tree species that is native to Oregon called Port Orford cedar. It's a beautiful cedar that only grows in the mountains in southwestern Oregon and nowhere else in the world. But it's impacted by this disease called Phytophthora root rot disease. And so the student is looking at the effects of wildfire and the microbiome of the roots on pathogen resistance. And that's a collaborative project with our microbiologist in biology, Jay Melius, and myself. And see, we have another project is looking at something called forensic botany. So it's a way of using botanical information to study, to do forensic science on crime scenes. And so you can look at the vegetative growth patterns at crime scenes to determine time since the event and original location of the event and things like that. So the student is looking at the patterns of moss development on bone tissue and how that is affected by site microclimate, things like moisture in the soil and in the atmosphere. So yeah, all over the board, and whatever your imagination can come up with, I'm sure we can find a way to support your inquiry.
Thank you. All of those sound super fascinating, at least to me. But yes, I think we have reached all of or we've gone through all of the questions that were in the chat. And I think we're a few minutes out from the 1 hour mark, but I did want to ask if we had any last questions. Please feel free to put them in the chat. Otherwise, if you had any last or final comments, Professor Ramirez, in terms of the ES major or just generally for our students who are here.
Okay, yeah, so I don't see any other questions. But yeah, it's great to meet all of you. Thank you for making the time to be here and hearing about the ES program. I hope we get to see many of you on campus in the fall, but feel free to reach out and if you think of questions later. And it's been a pleasure.
We did get one final question, if that's okay. I
Oh,
think we
sure.
got one from Sierra asking, how does this department deal with grades? So I'm assuming, what does grades look like within the ES major?
Yeah, it's not any different really from other programs on campus. So we really de-emphasize the quantitative grading at Reed and emphasize feedback, constructive feedback. So that will be the case with your ES courses as well. And that can seem a little ambiguous when you're coming from high schools where quantitative grading is really important. But because everybody is kind of in that same boat, it becomes sort of the culture of your academic preparation here that and allows us to focus more on the learning and less on the grade outcomes. But yeah, the philosophy is the same, that we want to provide constructive feedback and contribute to the learning process.
Thank you. And with that, Sierra, if you have more questions about grading, I'd be more than happy to answer them as well. But with that, I wanted to thank everyone for their time, and especially Aaron, for joining us with your incredible insight. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to admissions here at Reed College. We'd be more than happy to answer any of your questions. We also have several more of these faculty office hours throughout the rest of April. So be sure to check out our website, our virtual visits website, and you can register for those as well. It's great to get to know some of the faculty here, as well as some of the various majors and departments. But again, thank you everyone for joining us, and feel free to sign off. And I hope everyone has a good evening, good morning, good afternoon, and good rest of their day. Yes.
Thank you all. Thanks, Leah.
Thank you. Bye.